She called me a relic, a piece of outdated furniture cluttering up the company I built from dust. My son Ethan just stood there, sipping his champagne, agreeing with his wife. They thought the old man was finished, too busy caring for his sick wife to notice they were stealing his life, brick by brick. They were about to learn that you don't dismantle the foundation without bringing the whole house down on your head. The ballroom was dripping with money, crystal chandeliers, the smell of expensive perfume, and the sound of fake laughter. It was the annual real estate gala. My daughter-in-law, Chloe, had just won Salesperson of the Year. I watched from the back. My son, Ethan, stood beside her on stage. His suit was perfect. His smile was too bright. They were the new face of Chen Properties. The company I started 40 years ago in my garage. They looked powerful, successful, but when their eyes found me in the crowd, they were cold. That coldness was new, and it scared me more than I wanted to admit. I sat alone at a table near the exit. These events were too much for me now. My wife Margaret was at home. Her Alzheimer's was getting worse. Loud rooms confused her. I watched Ethan and Chloe work the room. They were magnets. I felt a pang of pride, quickly followed by a strange isolation. I was the founder, but tonight I felt like a ghost at my own party, and the evening was just getting started. Chloe swayed over to my table later, flushed with victory and too much champagne. She leaned in close. Her breath was hot and sour. "Arthur," she chirped. Her voice was high, coated in fake sweetness. "Big night, right? For us?" "You did very well, Chloe. The company is proud," I said. My voice was even. She laughed, a sharp, unpleasant sound, like breaking glass. It was a sound I was starting to hate. "Oh, did well," she mocked. "Arthur, sweetie, we didn't just do well. We revolutionized this place." She waved her hand dismissively around the room. Ethan and I dragged Chen Properties out of the dark ages. The table beside us went silent. A few of Ethan's younger colleagues looked uncomfortable, but they didn't say anything. They never did when Chloe was talking. I knew what was coming next. A subtle insult, a polite dismissal. But I was wrong. She wasn't being subtle tonight. Chloe stopped smiling. She looked me up and down, slowly, like I was a piece of meat she didn't want to buy. The silence stretched. The air felt suddenly cold. She tapped her long red nails on the table. Tap, tap, tap. A nervous habit she had when she was about to strike. Then she leaned in closer. The mask slipped completely. "Tell me, Arthur," she whispered, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "How does it feel, watching us succeed while you sit at home playing nurse?" The air left my lungs. It was a direct hit. Cruel. Calculated. She let the insult hang there. Must be tough, seeing the world pass you by. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The music in the ballroom seemed to fade away. All I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. Playing nurse, she was talking about Margaret, my wife. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for my scotch. I wouldn't let her see me break. Not here. But the real betrayal wasn't hers. It was his. I looked at Ethan, my son, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the man I handed my legacy to. He was standing right behind her. He heard everything. I waited for him to defend me, to shut her down. He looked at me for a second. I saw a flicker of shame in his eyes. But then Chloe touched his arm. The shame vanished. He laughed. A weak, forced sound. "She's just teasing, Dad," Ethan said, adjusting his tie. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He never met my eyes anymore. "Don't be so sensitive." Teasing. The word hit harder than a slap. I looked at Chloe's triumphant smirk. I looked at Ethan's weak compliance. They weren't just celebrating their success. They were celebrating my obsolescence. I stared at the glass trophy on the table, cold, hard, and sharp. I had retired 2 years ago to care for Margaret. I thought I was leaving a legacy. I didn't realize I was creating monsters. I stood up slowly. My legs felt heavy. "Good night, Ethan." I walked out of the ballroom. I didn't look back, but I knew this was the beginning of something terrible. The changes started small. Small enough to ignore. Small enough to dismiss as modernization. But I knew better. Small changes always lead to big erasures. A few weeks after the gala, I visited the office. I needed to feel the pulse of the business I built. Maybe I needed to remind myself I still existed. When I walked into the main lobby, I stopped dead. The large oil painting of Margaret and me was gone. It was taken on the company's 20th anniversary. We looked young, hopeful. It was the heart of the lobby. In its place was a huge modern abstract piece, all sharp angles and cold, aggressive colors. It looked angry. It felt like a deliberate punch to the gut. They were erasing our history. My history. I found Ethan in his office, my old office. He was on a video call, laughing loudly. He waved me in, but didn't end the call. I stood there, waiting. The office didn't smell like my old coffee and leather anymore. It smelled like Chloe's aggressive perfume. It was everywhere. He finally hung up. "Dad, what's up? I'm busy." "Where's the painting, Ethan?" My voice was tighter than I intended. He didn't even look up from his computer. "Oh, that old thing. Chloe had it put in storage." "Storage? Why?" "It was making the lobby look dated, Dad." He sighed. The sound of a man explaining something very simple to a child. "We're rebranding. Fresh, young, aggressive. That's the new Chen Properties." I tried to reason with him. "It wasn't just decoration, Ethan. It was history. It was a tribute to your mother." "History doesn't close deals, Dad," he said, finally looking up. His eyes were impatient, cold. "Chloe does, and Chloe says image is everything." He turned back to his screen. I was dismissed. Again, I left without another word. The silence in the newly renovated hallway felt hostile. I realized then that the rebranding wasn't about the company. It was about erasing me completely. A month later, the quarterly board meeting arrived. I still held a seat. A formality, Ethan called it. I walked into the conference room. I was 5 minutes early, but I was already late. The room was full. Chloe was sitting at the head of the table. In my chair, next to Ethan, my usual seat was occupied by a young guy in a shiny suit. Brian Lakes, the new marketing director. He didn't even look up when I entered. I looked around the table. My seat was at the far end, near the door, like an afterthought. The humiliation burned in my chest, but I kept my face neutral. I walked slowly to the seat. Every step felt like a mile. Chloe ran the meeting like a coronation. Projections, acquisitions, expansions. She talked fast, dazzling the board with numbers, big numbers. She barely acknowledged my presence. When I tried to speak, she smiled tightly and moved to the next agenda item. It was a masterful performance of dismissal, but I wasn't going to stay silent. Not this time. About the new development on the waterfront, I interrupted. My voice was louder than I expected. Chloe stopped. She sighed. "Yes, Arthur. What is it?" "The risk profile seems high," I said. "The environmental reports are concerning, and the leverage is—" Chloe cut me off. She didn't even look at me. She addressed the rest of the board. "Arthur is concerned about the risk," she said, her tone implying I was scared of my own shadow. "But with all due respect, the market has changed since his time." She turned to me then. Her smile was pure condescension. "Things move faster now, Arthur. We don't have time for excessive caution. Caution doesn't build empires." Brian Lakes chuckled. The other board members nodded. They were all Ethan's new hires. Loyal to Chloe, I was a speed bump on their highway to success. And they were making it clear that if I didn't move, they would simply pave over me. The drive home felt longer that day. The city skyline, which I helped build, blurred through a mist of frustration. I told myself I was overreacting, that I was being the grumpy old man who couldn't handle change. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about change. It was about power, and they were taking all of it. And they were about to take the last thing I had left. The final straw came disguised as concern. It always does. Ethan and Chloe showed up at our house on a Saturday morning. The home Margaret and I built together. The place where we raised Ethan, the only place Margaret still recognized. I was in the garden with her. She loved the roses. The scent seemed to calm her. Ethan looked uncomfortable. He kept adjusting his tie, avoiding my eyes. Chloe, however, was all business. She walked around the garden, inspecting everything with a critical eye. Her heels clicked sharply on the stone path. "Dad, We need to talk, Ethan started. We went inside. Margaret stayed in the garden with her caregiver, Sarah. Sarah was kind, patient, the only bright spot in our lives lately. I sat in my armchair. Ethan and Chloe sat opposite me, like an interrogation team. Chloe didn't waste time. Arthur, this house is too big for you. Her voice was blunt. It's inefficient. The upkeep is astronomical. She looked around the living room with distaste. At the furniture Margaret picked out, at the photos on the mantelpiece. And frankly, she continued, it's a massive asset that's just sitting here. Wasted. A cold dread crept into my chest. I knew where this was going, but I had to hear them say it. Wasted. This is our home, Chloe. What are you suggesting? We're suggesting a move. Chloe announced, not a suggestion, a decision. We found a condo downtown. It's upscale, secure, much easier to manage. Ethan jumped in quickly. It's beautiful, Dad. Great view of the city. Top-of-the-line facilities. They had already picked the place. They had already made the plans. Without me, and why the sudden need for us to move? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Chloe sighed impatiently. We need this house for corporate entertaining, high-level clients, potential investors. It's crucial for the company's image. She looked around the room again. It just needs a complete renovation. Get rid of all this clutter. The clutter was our life. Our memories, our history. They wanted to erase it all. This is Margaret's home, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I had to protect her. She's comfortable here. She knows where things are. The garden, the light, moving her now, with her condition. I couldn't finish the sentence. The thought of her confusion, her fear, terrified me. We've thought of that, Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. The condo complex has a full-time care wing, specialized staff. It's actually better for her, Dad. Safer. Better for who, Ethan? I looked straight at him. Better for her, or better for you? Ethan flinched. He looked away. That silence was his confession. Chloe stepped forward. Arthur, stop being sentimental. This is a business decision. The company needs this asset utilized. The company, or you? We are the company now, Arthur, she snapped. The house will be transferred to Chen Properties. The movers are booked for Friday. They didn't ask. They told they were erasing me. Not just from the company, but from my own life. From my own home. I looked at my son and I saw a stranger. A weak, compliant stranger who had traded his family for ambition. I thought I had felt the worst betrayal at the gala. I was wrong. The real betrayal was happening right now, in my own living room. The move was brutal, worse than I imagined. Margaret was confused, agitated. She kept asking where we were going, why we were leaving our garden. The new condo was luxurious, all glass and steel. But it wasn't home. It smelled wrong. The light fell differently. The sounds of the city were sharp and unsettling. It felt like a very expensive prison cell. Margaret deteriorated quickly. The change accelerated her confusion. She'd stand by the window for hours, looking down at the concrete jungle below. When are we going home, Arthur? She would ask. My heart broke every time. I had failed her. I had let them take her sanctuary, and they weren't finished yet. They were coming for the rest. The next betrayal arrived by courier. A few weeks after the move, a thick, heavy envelope, legal documents. I sat at the small kitchen table and started reading. My hands began to shake. The blood drained from my face. Ethan and Chloe were restructuring the company, dissolving the original partnership agreement, the one I engined with Ethan when I retired, and they needed my signature. The new structure diluted my remaining shares. I had 33%. This would take me down to 10%. But that wasn't the worst part. It stripped me of my voting rights, completely. It was a formality, the attached note explained in Ethan's handwriting, to streamline operations and facilitate faster decision-making. Love, Ethan. Love, Ethan. Love, Ethan. The hypocrisy was staggering. They were locking me out, legally. Permanently. I picked up the phone and called Ethan, my hand trembling with rage. He answered on the second ring. Dad, did you get the papers? I got him, Ethan. What is this? You're pushing me out completely? He sighed. That same impatient sigh. Dad, don't be dramatic. It's just paperwork. Tax stuff, mostly. Chloe's lawyers handled it. Tax stuff? This strips me of my voting rights. This is a hostile takeover, Ethan. It's better for the company, Dad. We need to be agile. Just sign the papers. I'm not signing this until I understand it. I need my lawyer to review it. There was a pause. Then I heard a click. Chloe's voice suddenly came on the line. She must have been listening the whole time. Arthur, you do understand. Her voice was cold, sharp as ice. You understand that it's our time now. Your time is over. I built that company, Chloe, and we saved it. She snapped. It was dying when we took over. We tripled the revenue. We made it relevant again. You did it by standing on my shoulders. We did it by dragging it into the 21st century, she retorted. Now sign the papers. Don't make this difficult. Her voice dropped, menacing. We're trying to protect the company's future, Arthur. Do you want to be responsible for hindering our growth? Sign the papers. It's time to let go. The line went dead. I looked at the documents on the table. They assumed I was weak, broken, too preoccupied with Margaret to fight back, too old to understand the game. They were wrong. The cold realization settled in my chest. This wasn't a disagreement. This was a war, and they had fired the first shot. But the final shot would be mine. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The sky was gray. The condo felt smaller than usual, claustrophobic. Margaret was having a bad day. One of her worst. She was restless, wandering the rooms, looking for a garden that wasn't there, looking for a life that was gone. Sarah, the caregiver, was trying to calm her down. I was in the study, staring at the restructuring documents. I felt helpless, trapped. Then I heard Chloe's voice in the living room. She hadn't announced herself. She just walked in. The condo, after all, was registered in the company's name. She had her own key. The invasion felt complete. Honestly, Sarah, you need to be firmer with her, Chloe was saying, her voice sharp with impatience. We're paying you a fortune, and she still acts like this. Mrs. Chen, she's confused. Sarah replied softly. It's the disease. She's looking for something. She's looking for attention, Chloe snapped. I walked to the doorway and stopped, hidden in the shadows. I watched. Chloe was standing over Margaret. My wife was sitting on the sofa, clutching a small frayed teddy bear. It was Ethan's childhood toy. Margaret clung to it like a life raft. Chloe looked disgusted. The silence in the room was heavy, charged with cruelty. Margaret, stop this nonsense, Chloe said. Her voice was cold, condescending, like she was scolding a naughty child. She reached out and tried to pull the bear away. Give me that filthy thing. It's disgusting. Margaret whimpered. She clutched the bear tighter. Her eyes were wide with fear. It's Ethan's. He needs it. He can't sleep without it. My heart shattered. Even in the fog, she was protecting her son. Chloe rolled her eyes. Ethan is a grown man, Margaret. He's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. He doesn't need a toy. She yanked the bear again, hard. Margaret started crying. Quiet, heartbroken sobs. And frankly, we don't need this drama, Chloe continued, oblivious to Margaret's distress. Do you have any idea how much your condition is costing us? I froze. Costing them? The care, the specialized facilities, the constant supervision. It's draining resources, Arthur, Chloe said, turning towards the study. She knew I was listening. This performance was for me. Resources that could be invested in the company, she continued, her voice rising. Instead, they're being wasted on this shell. She looked at Margaret with utter contempt. A shell. I saw red, a blinding, roaring rage, the casual cruelty, the absolute dehumanization of the woman I loved. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was personal. I stepped into the room. My voice was low, dangerous. Chloe, get out. She turned, startled. She hadn't expected me to confront her. Arthur, I was just trying to help. She needs structure. You were bullying a sick woman. You were torturing her. Get out of my house. Chloe sniffed. She recovered quickly. Your house? She laughed. I think you'll find this condo is company property, Arthur. Just like everything else. She smiled. A vicious, triumphant smirk. You have nothing. You are nothing. She walked towards the door. Don't forget to sign those papers, Arthur. We need them by Friday, or we will take further action. We might have to reevaluate Margaret's living situation. It was a threat, clear and cold. She walked out, leaving behind the scent of her perfume and the sound of Margaret sobbing. I held Margaret, rocking her gently. My heart pounded with a cold, focused rage. They thought they had me cornered. Broken. Defeated. They thought I was an old man waiting to die. The sound of the rain against the window echoed the storm inside me. They wanted a war. I was about to give them one. Later that night, after Margaret had finally fallen asleep, I went to the closet. I pulled out an old dusty box, the one Chloe had called clutter. Inside, beneath a pile of old photographs, was a rolled-up sheet of paper. It was the original blueprint for our first house. I unrolled it. The paper was brittle with age. I remembered the day I showed it to Margaret. We were young, broke, but full of dreams. I'm going to build you a safe harbor, Maggie, I had promised her. A place where nothing can hurt you. A place where you will always be safe. I looked around the sterile condo. I had broken that promise. I had let the sharks in, but it wasn't too late to fix it. The blueprint crinkled in my hand. It was time to rebuild that safe harbor, and to burn down everything that threatened it. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The city looked clean, washed new. I felt the same. The grief was gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I called the one person I knew I could trust, Robert Evans. Robert had been my lawyer and my friend for over 30 years. He handled the incorporation of Chen Properties. He knew where all the bodies were buried, and he was the only one who never trusted Chloe. Arthur? It's been a while. How's Margaret? His voice was warm. She's struggling. Robert. And so am I. My voice was steady now. I need your help. They're trying to steal everything. There was a pause. I was wondering when you'd call, Robert said. Be at my office in an hour. And bring those restructuring documents. Robert's office was the opposite of Chen Properties. Quiet, wood-paneled. It smelled of old books and strong coffee. It felt safe. I laid out everything. The move, the bullying of Margaret, the documents. Robert listened. His expression grew darker with every detail. When I finished, he leaned back. They're playing hardball, Arthur. Aggressive. Sloppy, but effective, he said. They're assuming you're too tired and distracted to fight back. I want my company back, Robert, and I want them gone. Especially her. It won't be easy, Robert warned. They control the operations. They have the board. And if you sign those papers, it's over. I'm not signing them, but I only have 33%. How do we fight? Robert smiled. A slow, knowing smile. We have a weapon, Arthur. A weapon you built yourself. He pulled an old, faded file from his cabinet. The original partnership agreement. Do you remember the contingency clause we put in here? You insisted on it when you brought Ethan into the business. You were worried he was too young. I frowned. Decades ago, something about protecting the company's integrity. Exactly, Robert pointed to a clause near the end. Clause 14b. It's a poison pill, Arthur, designed to protect your legacy. It states that if the acting CEO, Ethan, engages in gross negligence, unethical behavior, or illegal activities that threaten the company's existence, their shares immediately revert to the founder, you. My eyes widened. All of their shares? That would give me majority control. Yes, but we need proof, Robert said seriously. Undeniable proof of gross negligence or unethical behavior. Not just being cruel. We need something concrete, and we need it fast. How do we find that? We dig, Robert said. We dig deep. The fight began in the shadows. Robert brought in a specialist, Lisa Vance, a forensic accountant. Lisa was sharp, all business. If there's dirt, I'll find it, she promised. We didn't have much time. Friday was the deadline for the signatures. Robert managed to get a short extension, citing my need for independent counsel. It bought us a few days, but that was all. Lisa found the first anomalies. They're spending money like drunken sailors, she reported. Luxury cars, private jets for personal vacations, millions of dollars hemorrhaged in the last year. Is that enough for the poison pill? I asked Robert. No, he said. It's greedy, but the board approved the budgets. We need malicious intent. We needed an insider, someone on the ground. If this story has you hooked, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because the real betrayal was just beginning to surface. I knew just the person. David Park. David had been with the company for 20 years. My top sales agent before I retired. Loyal, honest. And I heard Chloe had demoted him, calling him too old school. I met David for coffee. He looked tired, defeated. Arthur, I heard about the move. I'm so sorry. It's worse than that, David. They're pushing me out. And I think they're doing something illegal. David looked around nervously. It's a snake pit, Arthur. Chloe runs everything. Ethan is just a figurehead. Anyone who questions her is gone. I need your help, David. Information. Anything unusual. David hesitated. He had a family. A mortgage. I'll protect you, David. I promise. But I need to stop them before they destroy everything. David sighed. He nodded slowly. There's something, he whispered. Whispers about a new company. A competitor that seems to know our every move. They're undercutting us on major deals. Poaching our biggest clients. What's the name of the company? Oakhaven Solutions, David said. They came out of nowhere, and they're bleeding us dry. I took the name back to Lisa. She started digging.
Oakhaven Solutions. A shell company, registered in Delaware.
Anonymous ownership. It's tight, she said, frustrated. They covered their tracks well, but Robert had an idea. Check the wire transfers again. Look for large, unexplained payments going out of Chen Properties. Cross-reference them with the dates. Oakhaven Solutions closed those deals. Lisa worked all night. The next morning, she called us. Her voice was tense with excitement. I found it. A series of large wire transfers from Chen Properties to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The account is linked to Oakhaven Solutions. They're embezzling funds, I said. They're funding their own competitor with my money. It gets worse, Lisa said. She had managed to break through the anonymity shield on the incorporation documents. She emailed them to us. The owner of Oakhaven Solutions was Chloe Chen. The discovery hit me like a physical blow. She wasn't just embezzling. She was actively sabotaging the company, diverting clients, funneling the deals through Oakhaven, planning to jump ship once she had bled Chen Properties dry. Ethan, blinded by ambition and infatuation, was oblivious. He thought the company was booming. He didn't realize it was hemorrhaging. He didn't realize his wife was a thief. A traitor. This is it, Robert said, his voice grim. Embezzlement. Fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty. It doesn't get more unethical than this. This is the proof we need for the poison pill. I looked at the spreadsheet, the numbers blurring through a mist of anger and profound sadness. My son was a fool, and they had tried to destroy everything I held dear. The time for subtlety was over. It was time to take back what was mine. We prepared carefully. Robert called an emergency board meeting. He cited critical financial irregularities and a matter of existential threat to the company. Ethan and Chloe were blindsided. Furious, but they couldn't refuse. The poison pill clause gave me the authority, as the founder, to call the meeting. They thought they were walking into a formality. They were walking into a trap. The atmosphere in the boardroom was icy. The air crackled with tension. Ethan and Chloe sat at the head of the table, in my chairs, flanked by their lawyers. They looked arrogant, annoyed. The other board members looked nervous. I sat opposite them, Robert by my side. This is an outrage, Arthur, Chloe started before I could even speak. Her voice was sharp. You have no authority to call this meeting. You're just a minority shareholder, a disgruntled retiree. Actually, Chloe, I am the founder, I said, my voice steady, strong, and I am here to save my company. From you. Ethan slammed his fist on the table. Save it? We've tripled the revenue since you retired. We modernized this place. He glared at me. You're just jealous. You can't stand that we're more successful than you ever were. Are you sure about that revenue, Ethan? I asked quietly. I slid a thick folder across the table. You might want to take a look at these. Ethan hesitated. He opened the folder. His expression shifted. Anger, confusion, then horror. Inside were the transaction logs. The wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. The incorporation documents for Oakhaven Solutions. The proof. Chloe went pale. Her composure cracked. This is fake? You fabricated this? This is slander. It's all verified, Chloe, Robert said, his voice calm. Lethal. The banks confirmed the transfers. The offshore accounts matched the Oakhaven registration. You've been stealing from the company millions of dollars. Robert slid copies of the evidence to the other board members. The room was silent. The tension was suffocating. Ethan looked at his wife, his eyes wide with betrayal. The realization hit him hard. Chloe, is this true? Oakhaven Solutions? That's you? Chloe regained her composure quickly. She stood up, her eyes blazing with defiance. The mask was off. The monster was revealed. So what if it is? She spat. I earned that money. I brought in those clients. I did the work. This company would be nothing without me. She turned to me, her voice dripping with contempt. You think you can stop me? You're an old, washed-up man, Arthur. You have nothing. She laughed. That same sharp, unpleasant laugh from the gala. How does it feel, Arthur, watching me succeed while you do nothing? Don't be mad. I'm just teasing. The words hung in the air, echoing the humiliation, but this time I felt a cold, satisfying clarity. I stood up slowly, meeting her gaze. Teasing is fun, Chloe. Want to hear mine? You see, Chloe, you made a fatal mistake. You underestimated me. You thought I was weak, broken, too busy playing nurse. I leaned in, my voice low but clear. You thought you could steal everything I built, but you forgot one thing. The foundation. The poison pill clause, I continued. Clause 14b. It states that if the acting CEO engages in unethical behavior that threatens the company's existence, their shares revert to the founder. I let the realization dawn on her face. The horror, embezzlement, fraud, sabotage. I'd say that qualifies. As of this moment, Ethan's shares have reverted to me. I am the majority shareholder again, Chloe. I smiled. A cold, hard smile. And you're fired? Chloe's smirk vanished. Her face turned ashen. You can't do that. I have a contract. Your contract is void due to fraud, Robert said. He slid another document across the table. A termination letter and a lawsuit notification. Security will escort you out, and you will be hearing from the district attorney. Chloe stared at me, shock, rage. She turned to Ethan. Ethan, do something. Don't let him do this to us. Ethan looked at his wife, then at me. He saw the truth, the betrayal, the magnitude of his own foolishness. He saw the ruins of his life. He slumped back in his chair, defeated, broken. Get out, Chloe, he whispered, his voice hoarse. It's over. Chloe grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. She looked at me one last time. Pure hatred. Then she turned and walked out, the sound of her heels clicking on the marble floor echoing in the silence. The war was over, but the battlefield was covered in casualties. The aftermath was messy, loud, public. The news of Chloe's dismissal and the embezzlement scandal spread like wildfire. She was arrested a week later. Chen Properties stock took a hit, but the board rallied behind me. They were embarrassed, angry. They wanted to clean house. We started the slow, painful process of rebuilding. David Park was promoted to head of sales. He deserved it. The office felt different, lighter. The fear was gone. I walked into the lobby. The angry abstract painting was gone. The oil painting of Margaret and me was back in its rightful place. History matters. Legacy matters. Ethan was devastated. His marriage collapsed. His reputation was ruined. He lost everything. He came to see me a few days after the board meeting. He looked haunted. Dad, I didn't know, he stammered. I didn't know she was stealing. I thought we were succeeding. You didn't know, or you didn't want to know. My voice was tired. You let her bully your mother. You let her steal our home. Betal's blinded, Dad. The success, the theft. That's not an excuse, Ethan. That's a weakness. I offered him a junior position, a chance to start over, to learn the business from the ground up, to earn back the respect he had lost. He refused. He couldn't face the humiliation. He couldn't face me. I need a fresh start, Dad, he said. I need to figure out who I am. He moved away a few weeks later. I didn't try to stop him. Sometimes you have to let people face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes you have to let them go. The victory was bittersweet. I had saved my company, but I had lost my son. But the most important thing was Margaret. I moved her back to our old house. The moment we walked through the door, something changed in her. A flicker of recognition. She wandered into the garden, touching the roses she had planted years ago. The sunlight caught the silver in her hair. She looked peaceful. Home, she whispered. She looked at me, her eyes clear, focused. Just for a second. Arthur, we're home. A few months later, I was sitting on the porch, watching Margaret in the garden with Sarah. A sense of peace settled over me. The war was over. The wounds were deep, but the foundation was solid. Robert stopped by for a coffee. We sat in comfortable silence. You did it, Arthur. You saved Chen Properties, he said. I did, but the cost was high. Ethan will come around, Robert said gently. Maybe, or maybe not. But I realized something, Robert. My legacy isn't just the company. It's not the buildings, the money, or the name on the door. I looked at Margaret, safe, content. It's the promises we keep, the people we protect. I thought of the blueprint now framed in my study. I built her a safe harbor, Robert, and I kept my promise. I had faced the betrayal, the greed, the cruelty. I'd walked through the fire and emerged on the other side, scarred but unbroken. They thought they could erase me, but they forgot that some foundations can't be cracked. And as I watched Margaret, safe in the home we built together, I knew that I had won the only victory that truly mattered. Thanks for watching. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.